What if I told you the world's oldest computer wasn't invented in the 20th century, or even the 19th? No, this astonishing device predates the modern era by over 2,000 years, emerging from the depths of the ancient Mediterranean. It's called the Antikythera Mechanism, a name that might not roll off the tongue, but its secrets have left scientists utterly spellbound. Discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of a tiny Greek island in 1901, this corroded bronze artifact didn't reveal its true nature at first glance. It looked like little more than a lump of rusted metal, but when researchers peered closer, they realized they were holding something extraordinary, a complex, gear-driven machine unlike anything else from its time. A device so advanced it wouldn't be matched for over a millennium. Think about that for a moment. While the Romans were building aqueducts and the Han Dynasty was expanding the Silk Road, some brilliant, nameless mind crafted a machine that could predict celestial events with pinpoint accuracy. It tracked the movements of the sun, moon, and planets. It even accounted for irregularities in their orbits, something we'd only rediscover with the help of modern astronomy. Who built it, and why does this one artifact seem to defy everything we thought we knew about ancient technology? The Antikythera Mechanism is more than just an artifact. It's a riddle wrapped in bronze, a puzzle that's taken over a century to unravel, and yet it still guards 25 unsolved mysteries that keep researchers awake at night. Today, we're diving deep into those enigmas, from the cryptic inscriptions hidden inside its gears to the shocking precision of its calculations. This isn't just a story about an old machine. It's a window into a lost chapter of human ingenuity, a glimpse of what our ancestors might have achieved if history hadn't buried their knowledge. Some say it's proof of forgotten science, others argue it hints at influences we've yet to uncover. But one thing's certain, the Antikythera Mechanism challenges our assumptions about the past in ways that are as thrilling as they are humbling. So join me as we peel back the layers of time, piece by piece, and ask the question that haunts every researcher who's ever held this ancient marvel: what else don't we know? The stormy waters off the coast of Antikythera were hardly the place you'd expect to rewrite history. But in the spring of 1901, a group of sponge divers braving the treacherous depths stumbled upon a shipwreck littered with ancient treasures, marble statues, delicate glassware, and jewelry that shimmered even under centuries of ocean sediment. Among the debris, something far more intriguing lay buried, a lump of corroded bronze about the size of a shoebox, its surface crusted over with time. At first glance, it seemed unremarkable, just another relic destined for a museum shelf. But when the fragments were carefully cleaned, archaeologists gasped. Hidden beneath the grime were intricate gears, precisely interlocking like the inner workings of a modern clock. This wasn't supposed to exist, not here, not from this era. The wreck dated back to around 100 BCE, a time when the ancient world was still thought to rely on simple machines. The idea that someone, over 2,000 years ago, had crafted a device with such mechanical sophistication was staggering. Even more baffling, the gears weren't just decorative, they formed a complex system, complete with tiny teeth calibrated to mesh perfectly. One researcher likened it to finding a jet engine in the tomb of a pharaoh. The disbelief was palpable. Scholars initially assumed it must be a medieval artifact that had somehow found its way into the wreck. But as they pieced together the fragments, the truth became undeniable. This was a product of the Hellenistic world, a period better known for its philosophy and art than for precision engineering. The mechanism's purpose only deepened the mystery. Faint inscriptions hinted at celestial calculations, and the arrangement of the gears suggested it could track the movements of the sun, moon, and planets, a function so advanced it wouldn't be replicated until the rise of European clockmaking in the 14th century. Who could have built such a thing? The ship carrying it was Roman, but the craftsmanship pointed to Greek origins, possibly the island of Rhodes, home to legendary astronomers like Hipparchus. Yet no historical records mentioned anything like it. The Antikythera Mechanism stood alone, a technological ghost from a past we thought we understood. For decades, it defied explanation, its secrets locked in corrosion and cryptic glyphs. And with every new revelation, every gear turned, every inscription deciphered, the question grew louder. How much of ancient ingenuity have we underestimated? So what exactly was this intricate bronze machine built to do? The answer lies in the delicate dance of gears and the cryptic inscriptions etched into its surface. After decades of painstaking research using everything from X-rays to three-dimensional modeling, scientists have pieced together a staggering truth. The Antikythera Mechanism was a cosmic calculator designed to mirror the heavens with breathtaking precision. Its gears didn't just turn, they simulated the irregular motions of the moon, predicted solar eclipses years in advance, and even tracked the timings of ancient athletic games like the Olympics. Imagine a hand-cranked orrery, but one so advanced it accounted for the moon's wobbly orbit, a mathematical feat we didn't think ancient civilizations could achieve. Yet the purpose behind this marvel is still hotly debated. Some argue it was a practical tool for sailors, a celestial GPS of sorts, helping navigators chart courses by the stars. Others believe it served Greek astronomers as a teaching device, turning abstract cosmic theories into something tangible. Then there's the most tantalizing theory, that it was more than a calculator, it was a philosophical statement. In a culture obsessed with harmony and order, the mechanism might have been a physical manifestation of the Greeks' belief in a predictable, clockwork universe. The evidence is as fascinating as it is contradictory. On one hand, the device's eclipse predictions were eerily accurate, down to the hour, suggesting it was used for something as concrete as planning religious ceremonies or agricultural cycles. But the sheer craftsmanship, gears cut with microscopic precision, inscriptions referencing long-lost astronomical theories, hints at something grander. Was it a status symbol commissioned by a wealthy patron to showcase intellectual prowess? Or could it have been part of a larger tradition of mechanical genius, most of which was lost to time? What's undeniable is that the Antikythera Mechanism bridges the gap between science and myth. It doesn't just calculate, it performs. Turn the handle and the cosmos comes alive in bronze. Planets glide along concentric rings, the moon phases flicker in perfect sync, and eclipses appear like clockwork. This wasn't just machinery, it was theater, a spectacle designed to make the universe's mysteries feel within reach. And that's the real enigma, whether its creators saw it as a tool, a teaching aid, or a tribute to the gods. They left us with a legacy that forces us to rethink the boundaries of ancient innovation. One thing's clear, this wasn't just a calculator, it was a mirror held up to the sky. The real genius of the Antikythera Mechanism lies in its inner workings, a labyrinth of over 30 interlocking bronze gears, each meticulously crafted with teeth so precise they could rival the components of a Swiss watch. Unlike the simple machines of its era, this wasn't just a collection of wheels, it was a cosmic symphony in metal, engineered to mimic the heavens with uncanny accuracy. Take the largest gear, for instance. Its 223 teeth correspond to the Saros cycle, an 18-year pattern of eclipses. Then there's the crown jewel, a differential gear, a mechanism so advanced historians once believed it wasn't invented until the 16th century. This single component allowed the device to account for the moon's elliptical orbit, subtracting or adding speed to reflect its real, uneven motion across the sky. But how did it all fit together? Picture a series of concentric dials, each driven by its own set of gears. One tracked the sun's path through the zodiac, another followed the moon's phases, while smaller systems charted the erratic dances of Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, the 5 planets known to the ancient Greeks. What's astonishing isn't just the presence of these gears, but their arrangement. Some meshed directly, others connected via intermediary wheels, and a few even rotated on axes tilted to replicate celestial inclinations. The precision is staggering. Gear teeth were cut at exact angles to minimize slippage, ensuring that even after centuries underwater, some parts still moved smoothly when turned by hand. This level of sophistication raises a provocative question. Was the Antikythera Mechanism a one-off masterpiece, or did it belong to a wider tradition of ancient engineering? Consider the writings of Cicero, who described a similar device built by Archimedes, a sphere that replicated the heavens, looted by Romans when they sacked Syracuse. Could this have been its predecessor? The Antikythera's gears hint at a lineage, a school of thought that viewed the universe as a machine to be decoded. Yet no other examples have survived. Perhaps they were melted down for scrap, or their secrets died with their makers. What's undeniable is that this device didn't just tell time, it orchestrated it. Turn the handle and the gears transformed abstract astronomy into something visceral. The moon's phases advanced in real time, planets reversed course in perfect mimicry of retrograde motion, and eclipses loomed on the horizon like clockwork. For an ancient observer, this wasn't merely a tool, it was revelation, a tangible proof that the cosmos obeyed rules and humanity, if clever enough, could unravel them. The tragedy: we'll never know how many other marvels like it were lost to the tides of history. The Antikythera Mechanism stands as a lone survivor, whispering of an era when bronze and ingenuity bridged the gap between earth and sky. The Antikythera Mechanism we see today is just a fragment of its former glory, about a third of the original device, pieced together like an ancient jigsaw puzzle with half the pieces missing. The surviving fragments reveal intricate gears and dials, but what happened to the rest? Were they crushed under centuries of ocean pressure, scattered across the seafloor, or could they still be buried in the wreckage waiting to be found? This isn't just a question of archaeology, it's a tantalizing what if that could rewrite history. Divers recovered the mechanism in pieces, some large, some no bigger than a coin, all encrusted in layers of marine sediment. But here's the puzzling part: the device's outer casing, likely made of wood or another perishable material, has completely vanished. Even more intriguing, certain critical gears mentioned in inscriptions, like those possibly modeling Mercury's erratic orbit, are nowhere to be found. Were they torn away when the ship sank, or did they corrode beyond recognition? Some researchers believe the mechanism might have been housed in a protective wooden frame, which disintegrated long ago, leaving only the bronze guts behind. Then there's the shipwreck itself. The Antikythera wreck is one of the richest ever discovered, yet only a fraction has been excavated. Modern scans reveal unexplored chambers buried under layers of sand and rock. Could more fragments lie hidden there? In 2014, divers returned to the site with advanced metal detectors and found scattered bronze objects nearby, some resembling gear fragments. But the currents around Antikythera are treacherous and the seabed is littered with debris. Even if more pieces exist, they could be buried under centuries of sediment or wedged into crevices too deep to reach. But there's another, more unsettling possibility. What if the mechanism was never complete to begin with? The ship carrying it was a Roman cargo vessel, possibly looting Greek treasures. Was it being transported mid-construction, its creator's workshop ransacked before the final gears could be added? Or were some parts deliberately removed, a high-value prototype stripped of its most advanced components before the ill-fated voyage? The missing pieces aren't just gaps in the mechanism, they're gaps in our understanding. Every lost gear could hold clues about its maker's intent, their methods, even their worldview. Until we find them, if we ever do, the Antikythera Mechanism remains a breathtaking but incomplete masterpiece, whispering of secrets we may never fully hear. Who crafted the Antikythera Mechanism? This isn't just a gap in history, it's a maddening silence where we'd expect to find boasting, signatures, or at least a clue. Unlike grand monuments or statues that proudly bore their maker's marks, This intricate device carries no obvious credit to its creator. Not a single inscription proclaims "made by" or "commissioned for." Just gears and cryptic astronomical notes, as if the builder deliberately stepped back to let the machine speak for itself. 3 names echo through scholarly debates. First, Archimedes, the legendary mathematician of Syracuse. Cicero wrote of a bronze celestial model built by him, brought to Rome as war loot decades before the Antikythera ship sank. The timing fits and the genius matches, but here's the catch. The mechanism's eclipse predictions align most closely with solar observations made in Rhodes, not Syracuse. Then there's Posidonius, a Rhodian philosopher-astronomer whose lost works reportedly described planetary models. Rhodes was a hub of mechanical innovation, home to famed gear makers. But no direct evidence ties him to the device. The third candidate, an unknown artisan whose name evaporated from history. Imagine a workshop where craftsmen, astronomers, and blacksmiths collaborated, pooling knowledge that no single scholar possessed. This might explain the mechanism's hybrid nature, part calculator, part artistic marvel. The absence of a signature could hint at collective effort, or perhaps the creator was simply one brilliant mind working in obscurity, their identity swallowed by time. What's most telling is what the mechanism lacks. Greek and Roman elites loved attaching their names to grand projects. If this was commissioned by a wealthy patron, why no dedication? Unless it was a prototype or worse, considered heretical. Some theories suggest its celestial predictions might have conflicted with state-sanctioned calendars, making its creator cautious about claiming ownership. The silence stretches further when you consider how few ancient texts mention similar devices. A handful of vague references survive like a poem describing a mobile celestial sphere, but no technical manuals, no workshop inventories. It's as if the Antikythera mechanism existed in a bubble, its technology either too rare or too dangerous to replicate. One tantalizing clue hides in the inscriptions, the word Olympia. Was this device linked to the games, its eclipse predictions used to schedule events, or does it trace back to a school of thought we've yet to uncover? Until another artifact surfaces or a long-lost manuscript decodes the mystery, the maker's identity remains as elusive as the distant stars their machine so perfectly charted. The Antikythera mechanism's most jaw-dropping feature isn't just its gears. It's the sheer astronomical precision encoded in them. This ancient device didn't merely approximate celestial motions, it replicated them with an accuracy that rivals modern calculations. Take the Saros cycle, the intricate pattern of eclipses repeating every 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours. The mechanism's designers didn't just know this cycle existed. They built gears with 223 teeth to track it flawlessly, predicting eclipses down to the hour. That level of detail suggests something extraordinary. The ancient Greeks weren't just stargazers. They were meticulous cosmic accountants, recording celestial movements with a precision we'd associate with Renaissance astronomers, not a civilization 2,000 years removed from the telescope. How did they achieve this? The moon's orbit alone presents a nightmare of irregularities. It speeds up and slows down in elliptical loops, a phenomenon called anomaly. Yet the Antikythera mechanism accounts for this perfectly, using a differential gear to adjust the moon's displayed speed in real time. This wasn't guesswork. It implies centuries of accumulated observations, likely passed down through generations of Babylonian and Greek astronomers. Babylonian clay tablets from 400 BCE already contained eclipse records accurate enough to identify the Saros cycle. But the Greeks went further. They transformed raw data into mechanical genius, encoding celestial mathematics into bronze. The real mystery isn't just the mechanism's sophistication, but the vanished tools behind it. To achieve such precision, its creators would have needed advanced observational instruments, perhaps armillary spheres or early versions of the astrolabe. Yet none survive from this period. Even more perplexing are the planetary calculations. The device tracks Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn with gears accounting for their erratic retrograde motions, the illusionary backward movement in Earth's night sky. These paths aren't simple to model. They require understanding epicycles, the complex loops Ptolemy later described in the Almagest, but the Antikythera predates Ptolemy by 2 centuries. Was his work merely documenting knowledge the Greeks already had, perfected in workshops we've yet to uncover? Then there's the question of cross-cultural collaboration. The Babylonians pioneered systematic eclipse records while the Greeks excelled in geometry. The mechanism feels like a fusion Babylonian data filtered through Greek mechanical ingenuity. Perhaps its creators weren't just Greeks, but heirs to a wider Mediterranean scientific network, pooling knowledge from Alexandria to Rhodes. Or consider this darker possibility. What if the mechanism represents a lost lineage of astronomy? Its eclipse predictions align so perfectly with known events. It's almost as if its makers had access to records spanning centuries, records that may have vanished when the Library of Alexandria burned. What's undeniable is that the Antikythera mechanism forces us to redraw the timeline of astronomical discovery. Its gears don't just turn, they silently testify to an era when humanity's grasp of the cosmos was far more nuanced than we ever imagined. Every tooth in those bronze wheels is a challenge to history, asking us, how much more did they know and why did we forget? The Antikythera mechanism doesn't just whisper of Greek ingenuity, it hums with the echoes of an entire ancient world in conversation. One of its most fascinating contradictions sits right on its dials, a meticulous Egyptian calendar running alongside classic Greek zodiac signs. This isn't a mistake or an afterthought. It's a deliberate fusion, a silent testament to the vibrant exchange of ideas across the Mediterranean. The Egyptian calendar, with its 12 30-day months plus 5 extra days, was famously stable compared to the messy patchwork of Greek city-state calendars, which often drifted out of sync with the seasons. For astronomers tracking celestial events, the Egyptian system was a clean, predictable grid, a tool too practical to ignore. But why pair it with Greek zodiac symbols? The answer might lie in the mechanism's purpose. The zodiac wasn't just decorative, it was functional. Greek astronomers used these symbols to map the sun's annual path, dividing the sky into 12 equal slices. By integrating both systems, the device's creators could cater to multiple audiences, perhaps Egyptian navigators who relied on their traditional calendar, or Greek philosophers steeped in astrological tradition. This wasn't just multiculturalism, it was pragmatism. Imagine a modern smartphone offering both Fahrenheit and Celsius, not because the designers couldn't choose, but because they recognized different users needed different tools. The deeper implication is staggering. This blend of Egyptian and Greek systems suggests a level of cross-cultural collaboration we rarely attribute to antiquity. Rhodes, where many believe the mechanism originated, was a bustling trade hub where Egyptian grain merchants rubbed shoulders with Greek astronomers. The device's calendar might even hint at shared rituals like the Ptolemaic dynasty's adoption of Egyptian religious festivals, which required synchronizing Greek and local timekeeping. Or consider the possibility that the calendar was a nod to the famed Library of Alexandria, where Greek scholars pored over Egyptian star charts, yet the integration raises questions. Did the mechanism's users switch between systems depending on context, or was the Egyptian calendar purely for astronomical math? Some inscriptions suggest eclipse predictions were tied to Egyptian months, implying these dates held technical significance. Others argue the dual systems reflect a philosophical divide, the Egyptians' linear time versus the Greeks' cyclical cosmos. What's clear is that this tiny bronze machine wasn't just a calculator. It was a bridge between worlds, proof that even 2,000 years ago, innovation thrived where cultures collided. And that's the real wonder. the Antikythera Mechanism doesn't just challenge our assumptions about ancient technology, it rewires our understanding of how knowledge traveled. In its gears, we see more than mechanics. We see the quiet, relentless work of human connection. A Greek device keeping Egyptian time, tracking Babylonian cycles, perhaps even built with metals mined from Celtic lands. Whoever crafted this marvel didn't just build a machine. They built a monument to the idea that progress has always been a collective endeavor, one that defies borders, languages, and the passage of millennia. One of the most mind-bending feats of the Antikythera Mechanism isn't just its eclipse predictions, it's how it handled the planets. Mars, Venus, Jupiter, these celestial wanderers don't move in neat circles across the night sky. They speed up, slow down, and occasionally reverse course in baffling loops called retrograde motion. Today, we know this is an illusion caused by Earth's own orbit, but 2,000 years ago, explaining it required genius-level geometry. Yet somehow, nestled inside this ancient bronze box, gears spun in perfect sync with these cosmic illusions, replicating planetary dances with unnerving accuracy. The secret lies in a clever arrangement of stacked gears. For each planet, the mechanism used a pin and slot system, a tiny arm sliding along a groove, to simulate the speeding up and slowing down we see from Earth. Venus and Mercury, the inner planets, shared a single-geared assembly, while Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn each had their own dedicated tracks. But here's where it gets wild. The ratios between these gears weren't arbitrary. They matched precise astronomical periods known to Greek astronomers, like Venus' 584-day cycle or Jupiter's 399-day synodic period. These weren't rough estimates, they were calculated down to fractions of a degree. How did the Greeks achieve this precision? The debate split scholars into two camps. Some point to Babylon, where clay tablets dating back to 400 BCE contain centuries of planetary observations, including detailed records of retrograde motions. It's possible Greek astronomers inherited or traded for this data, translating numerical tables into mechanical ratios. Others argue for homegrown genius, citing figures like Apollonius of Perga, who developed the first geometric models of planetary motion around 200 BCE, or Hipparchus, whose lost works may have contained the math driving the mechanism's gears. But there's a third, tantalizing possibility. What if the Greeks had access to even older knowledge? The device's eclipse predictions align with data that would have required observations stretching back centuries further than surviving Babylonian records go. Could its creators have tapped into lost archives from Alexandria, or perhaps Egyptian star charts now buried under desert sands? The mechanism's planetary gears don't just turn, they whisper of entire libraries of celestial knowledge that vanished long ago. Perhaps the most striking thing isn't the mechanism's accuracy, but its ambition. Tracking 5 planets visible to the naked eye but notoriously erratic wasn't just about utility. It was a statement. In a universe where gods were thought to steer the heavens, this machine dared to say, no, the cosmos runs by rules and we can model them in bronze. Every rotation of those tiny gears was a quiet revolution, turning mythology into mathematics. And that's the real mystery, not just how they built it, but why they chose to encode the chaos of the planets into something so ordered, so precise. Was it science, religion, or something in between, a mechanical hymn to the universe's hidden logic? The Antikythera Mechanism doesn't answer. It just keeps turning, leaving us to wonder how much more its makers understood about the sky than we ever gave them credit for. Tucked among the cosmic gears and celestial dials of the Antikythera Mechanism, one small circle stands out for its decidedly earthly focus: the Olympiad dial. This unassuming ring, divided into 4 segments labeled with ancient Greek city names Isthmia, Olympia, Nemea, and Pythia, tracked something far more grounded than planetary movements. It counted down the years between the Panhellenic Games, the sacred athletic competitions that brought the Greek world to a standstill every 4 years. But why would a device capable of predicting eclipses and planetary orbits bother with something as human as a sports schedule? The answer might lie in the deep intersection of timekeeping and culture in the ancient world. The Olympic Games weren't just entertainment, they were the heartbeat of Greek chronology. Historians dated events by Olympiads much like we might reference the summer of 2012. By including this dial, the mechanism's creators weren't merely noting a festival, they were anchoring celestial phenomena to human history. A solar eclipse in the third year of the 176th Olympiad wasn't just an astronomical event, it became a moment etched into collective memory, tied to the roar of crowds and the sweat of athletes. But was there more to it? Some researchers argue the Olympiad dial served a practical purpose for travelers. The Games drew pilgrims from across the Mediterranean, and knowing exactly when the next event would occur could mean the difference between securing a prime viewing spot or arriving to find the festivities over. Others see a darker utility. The Games coincided with truces between warring states. The dial might have helped diplomats or generals plan campaigns around these sacred ceasefires. Then there's the tantalizing astronomical connection. The Olympics were traditionally held around the second full moon after the summer solstice, a date the mechanism could pinpoint with its lunar gear. This synchronization suggests the dial wasn't just a passive counter but a dynamic tool, linking athletic tradition to celestial rhythms. Imagine a priest astronomer consulting the device to announce the exact start of the Games, not by vague tradition but by the moon's precise position. Yet the dial's presence raises provocative questions. Why include Olympiads but omit other major events like agricultural festivals or religious rites? Some speculate this was no accident, that the mechanism's creators saw the Games as the ultimate expression of cosmic order, where human achievement mirrored the harmony of the heavens. In a culture that celebrated the perfection of the body alongside the elegance of geometry, perhaps the Olympiad dial was the final puzzle piece, a reminder that beneath the turning gears and star charts, this machine wasn't just about understanding the cosmos, it was about celebrating humanity's place within it. And so this tiny bronze circle becomes a window into ancient values. While modern computers track stock markets or social media, the Antikythera Mechanism reserved space for something far more profound. The rhythm of communal joy, the cadence of peace, and the timeless human obsession with marking time not just by the stars, but by the stories we tell beneath them. Perhaps most astonishing of all, the Antikythera Mechanism didn't just track celestial events, it predicted them with eerie precision. Nestled among its gears was a specialized subsystem devoted solely to forecasting eclipses, capable of determining their exact timing and even distinguishing between solar and lunar varieties. The system relied on the Saros cycle, a repeating 18-year eclipse pattern known to Babylonian astronomers as early as 700 BCE, but with a twist. While earlier civilizations might have simply noted the cycle's recurrence, the mechanism's creators engineered a miniature bronze universe that physically displayed these cosmic alignments. A tiny dial labeled Eclipse Season advanced with each turn of the handle, while inscriptions warned of upcoming events with phrases like darkness or obscuration. But why go to such lengths? Eclipses held profound significance across ancient cultures, often seen as omens or divine interventions. For farmers, predicting a solar eclipse could mean the difference between planting crops under an auspicious sky or watching them wither under sudden, inexplicable darkness. Priests might have used these forecasts to stage rituals aligning with celestial events, turning fear into spectacle. The mechanism's eclipse predictions weren't just technical achievements, they were cultural lifelines, transforming cosmic chaos into something manageable, even ritualized. Yet the real puzzle isn't how the device worked, but why it appears to stand alone. If eclipse prediction was this advanced, where are the other machines? The answer might lie in the mechanism's fragility. Bronze was valuable, and most complex devices were likely melted down for reuse. Alternatively, the knowledge required to build them may have been confined to small, elite circles. Think of master artisans passing secrets orally, their workshops vanishing when political tides turned. The Library of Alexandria's destruction alone could have erased entire schools of technical thought. Or consider a darker possibility: eclipse prediction may have been too powerful to share. In a world where rulers derived authority from their supposed connection to the divine, a device that demystified the heavens could threaten the social order. Imagine a priest-king whose power relied on interpreting eclipses suddenly confronted with a machine that rendered his insights obsolete. It's no coincidence that the most advanced mechanical clocks later re-emerged in medieval monasteries, institutions with both the resources to build them and the incentive to control time's measurement. The Antikythera Mechanism's eclipse dial thus becomes more than a feat of engineering. It's a relic of a lost balance between knowledge and power, a glimpse of how much might have been erased when the ancient world's love of mechanics collided with its hunger for control. That single surviving dial doesn't just predict darkness in the sky, it hints at the shadows that fell over human ingenuity itself. Among the Antikythera Mechanism's most haunting features are the cryptic inscriptions etched beside its eclipse predictions, tiny glyphs like sigma for sigma, epsilon, lambda eta nu eta, or moon, and eta for eta lambda iota omicron sigma, the sun. These aren't just labels, they're fragments of a coded language, a shorthand that might unlock how ancient Greeks interpreted celestial omens. Some symbols appear repeatedly, clustered around specific eclipses: a spade-like character, a dotted spiral, even a diagonal slash that resembles a lightning bolt. Were these mere technical notations, or did they carry deeper warnings, blessings, or regional folklore? One compelling theory ties them to the Parapygmata, ancient eclipse diaries that paired celestial events with weather patterns and agricultural advice. A sigma might mark an eclipse ideal for planting, while an eta could signal droughts linked to solar obscurations, but other glyphs defy easy explanation. Take the recurring trident shape. Some scholars argue it's Poseidon's symbol, hinting at tidal surges during coastal eclipses. Others suggest it's a maker's mark, identifying the workshop that crafted this section of the device. Then there's the startling omega, the Greek letter for omega, found beside certain lunar eclipses. In Christian texts, omega signifies the end, but centuries before the New Testament, might it have signaled an eclipse's ominous closing act? The inscriptions grow even more intriguing when compared to surviving Babylonian clay tablets. Both cultures shared eclipse lore, but where Babylonians wrote explicit omens, if the moon is eclipsed, the king will die, the Greeks encrypted theirs. Was this discretion practical, keeping panic at bay, or did the glyphs serve as a secret lexicon for astronomer priests? A few symbols resemble those found in the Aratia, later Greek star maps, suggesting a standardized celestial vocabulary. Yet the Antikythera's unique combinations, like a crescent paired with a vertical bar, have no known parallels. Some of the boldest interpretations come from linguists studying regional dialects. The sigma appears in two distinct styles, one angular, another curved. Could these variations reflect eclipse traditions from different city-states? Rhodes, the likely origin of the mechanism, venerated the sun god Helios, while Corinth linked eclipses to Apollo's wrath. The glyphs might encode these local beliefs, turning the device into a cultural translator as much as a calculator. Then there's the darkest possibility, that some symbols weren't meant to be read at all. X-rays reveal ghostly marks beneath the visible surface, scratched-out letters and corrected strokes. Were these errors or deliberate obfuscations? One tantalizing clue: a partially erased sequence near a solar eclipse glyph spells Alpha Nu, the root of Anank, meaning fate. Whether warning, prayer, or simply a craftsman's musing, these inscriptions remind us that the Antikythera Mechanism wasn't just a machine. It was a mirror held up to humanity's oldest obsession, the desperate, beautiful need to find meaning in the darkening sky. Turn the Antikythera Mechanism over, and you'll find something just as puzzling as its intricate gears, faint, almost hurried engravings scrawled across the back plate. Unlike the meticulous front inscriptions, these markings lack the polished precision of a craftsman's hand. Some letters are cramped, others half-finished, as if someone etched them in a rush. Were these last-minute assembly notes, a repair log, or even a user manual for an operator who never got the chance to read them? One theory suggests these markings were technical shorthand, a blueprint for reassembling the device if it was ever dismantled. Imagine a master craftsman scribbling gear ratios or alignment cues, knowing the mechanism's complexity would baffle anyone trying to put it back together. The placement supports this. Several engravings cluster near screw holes and gear shafts, hinting at mechanical references. But there's a problem. Some symbols don't correspond to any known technical notation from the period. A series of angled strokes near the lower edge, for example, resembles nothing in surviving Greek or Babylonian engineering texts, another possibility. These were repair annotations. The ship carrying the mechanism sank during a storm. What if the device was damaged before the voyage and a harried technician attempted fixes mid-journey? The haphazard strokes could reflect emergency patches, like a modern engineer jotting down voltage readings in the margins of a manual. Yet the most tantalizing theory ties these marks to the device's final moments. A few inscriptions overlap with corrosion patterns, suggesting they were added after the mechanism was already water-damaged. Could someone have tried documenting its functions as seawater seeped into the casing, racing against time to preserve its secrets? Then there's the strangest detail of all, a single word, kappa alpha tau alpha, meaning down or according to, etched near a now-missing dial. Was this a calibration note or part of a larger, lost instruction? The word's isolation fuels speculation. Some researchers argue it's a fragment of a user guide, perhaps explaining how to reset the device after an eclipse cycle. Others see it as a philosophical musing, a nod to the Greek concept of cosmic order, kata kosmon. Without more context, it's a linguistic ghost hovering between the practical and the profound. What's clear is that these backdoor inscriptions weren't meant for display. They're the opposite of the front plate's elegant glyphs, raw, unvarnished, and deeply human. In their haste, they reveal something the polished gears obscure, that even the most sophisticated ancient technology was touched by uncertainty, improvisation, and the quiet urgency of hands working against time. The Antikythera Mechanism's genius may lie in its precision, but its soul might just reside in these messy, unfinished whispers from the past. The bronze gears of the Antikythera Mechanism didn't just survive 2 millennia underwater by chance. Their alloy was a carefully crafted shield against time itself. Modern analysis reveals a mix of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin, a formula that might sound standard until you notice the subtle additions. Traces of lead and iron sprinkled through the metal like secret ingredients in an ancient recipe. This wasn't the typical bronze of statues or swords. It was engineered for a purpose. The extra lead made the alloy softer, easier to cut into those impossibly precise gear teeth, while the iron may have subtly slowed corrosion, buying the mechanism centuries against the sea's hunger. Why then don't we find this blend in other ancient artifacts? The answer might lie in the risks of experimentation. Bronze was expensive copper mined from Cyprus, tin hauled from as far as Britain, and most workshops couldn't afford failed batches. Yet someone somewhere discovered this golden ratio. Was it trial and error, or did they inherit metallurgical knowledge now lost to history? The closest parallels come from high-status objects, ceremonial mirrors from Etruria, a handful of Ptolemaic navigational instruments. This wasn't everyday bronze, it was elite technology reserved for devices demanding perfection. The alloy's secrecy deepens when you consider where it might have been made. Rhodes, the suspected home of the mechanism's creators, was a hub of bronze craftsmanship, but no workshops there have yielded traces of this exact formula. Could the makers have guarded their recipe like a trade secret, mixing alloys behind closed doors? Ancient texts mention Corinthian bronze, a legendary material prized for its durability. Was this its practical cousin, a functional marvel hidden in plain sight? Then there's the darker possibility that the alloy's rarity reflects a lost school of engineering. The lead content in particular is puzzling. Too much would weaken the gears, yet just the right amount reduced friction, letting the mechanism spin smoothly for generations. This precision suggests not just skilled metalworkers, but thinkers who understood material science in ways we're still unraveling. Perhaps the formula died with its creators, their workshops sacked, their notes burned, their techniques too advanced to pass on. Every gear in the Antikythera mechanism carries this silent legacy. Its bronze isn't just metal, it's a fingerprint of the hands who shaped it, a clue to the tightrope they walked between artistry and innovation. While empires rose and fell, this alloy endured, outlasting temples and treaties to whisper a single, tantalizing truth. Some secrets of the ancient world weren't just lost, they were forged into objects too precious to replicate. The Antikythera mechanism didn't sink in isolation. It went down with a ship so richly laden. Its cargo hints at a story far grander than a simple merchant voyage. The vessel, now known as the Antikythera wreck, was a Roman-era behemoth over 40 meters long and stuffed with luxury goods. Life-sized bronze statues, delicate glassware from Alexandria, gold jewelry fit for nobility, and even fine ceramics from the Aegean. This wasn't just trade, it was a floating treasury. But who was transporting such wealth, and why was this marvel of ancient engineering among their possessions? One prevailing theory points to Rome's rapacious appetite for Greek plunder. In the 1st century BCE, the Roman Republic was in its final bloody throes, with generals like Sulla and Pompey extracting tribute from conquered Greek cities. Rhodes, a likely origin for the mechanism, had resisted Rome but fell into disfavor after backing the wrong side in a civil war. By 67 BCE, Pompey launched a massive campaign to eradicate Mediterranean piracy, a move that doubled as cover for confiscating treasures from uncooperative islands like Rhodes. Was the mechanism part of this loot, ripped from a Rhodian workshop and shipped to Rome as a trophy? The timing fits eerily well. The wreck's coins date to between 70 and 60 BCE, placing it squarely in Pompey's reign of pacification. But there's another, quieter possibility. The ship might have been carrying the mechanism not as spoils, but as a diplomatic gift. Rhodes was famed for its astronomical innovations, and sending such a device to a Roman patron, perhaps even Pompey himself, could have been a desperate bid for favor. Imagine a Rhodian delegation hastily packing their greatest scientific treasure, hoping to dazzle a warlord more accustomed to sacks of gold than celestial calculators. Then there's the wild card, the ship's destination. While Rome seems obvious, the presence of Pergamene-style pottery raises another prospect. The mechanism could have been bound for the Library of Pergamon, a rival to Alexandria's famed Mausoleum, where scholars might have studied or replicated it. If so, its loss represents more than a sunken artifact. It's the obliteration of an entire lineage of knowledge, a dead end for ancient mechanical science. The wreck's final moments add grim poetry to the tale. The ship, likely foundered during a brutal winter storm, dashed against Antikythera's cliffs as sailors struggled to save their priceless cargo. Some statues were found still lashed to the deck as if readied for quick sail. Others, like the mechanism, sank into the sediment, preserved by the very disaster that hid them. The ship's fate mirrors the broader collapse of the Hellenistic world, its treasures scattered, its innovations forgotten, its legacy left to the mercy of tides and time. The mechanism didn't just sink, it vanished into history's blind spot, taking with it the answers to questions we're only now learning to ask. If the Antikythera mechanism was this advanced, where are the others? Its intricate gears and celestial calculations suggest a mastery of engineering. So why haven't archaeologists unearthed even a fragment of a similar device? The absence of replicas isn't just a gap in the historical record. It's a deafening silence that forces us to confront a haunting possibility. This artifact might have been part of a tradition we barely understand, one that was systematically erased. Consider the fate of Greek scientific knowledge under Roman rule. In 146 BCE, Corinth, a hub of innovation, was razed to the ground, its libraries scattered. Centuries later, Julius Caesar's siege of Alexandria accidentally burned its legendary library, consuming countless scrolls on astronomy and mechanics. Rhodes, the likely birthplace of the Antikythera Mechanism, was plundered repeatedly, its workshops dismantled for raw materials. The Romans admired Greek art and philosophy, but had little use for their complex machines, especially those that might challenge the authority of state-sanctioned calendars or astrologers. Bronze gears were melted down for coins or statues, parchment manuals disintegrated or were repurposed for mundane records. What if the Antikythera only survived because it was already lost at sea, hidden from the reach of looters and vandals? Yet there are whispers of other devices in ancient texts. Cicero wrote of a bronze sphere built by Archimedes that mapped the heavens stolen by the conquering general Marcellus and displayed as a trophy in Rome. Posidonius reportedly constructed a similar model, and legends from Byzantium describe celestial automatons in imperial treasuries. None of these survive. Were they destroyed deliberately, or did their fragility doom them? The Antikythera's durability came from its compact, sealed design. Most ancient mechanisms were likely larger, their gears exposed to the elements or cannibalized for parts. Then there's the darker thread of suppression. The Roman elite relied on state-controlled calendars to schedule elections and religious festivals, a device that democratized eclipse predictions or challenged official timekeeping might have been seen as subversive. Imagine a world where knowledge this potent wasn't just forgotten, but actively suppressed, its creators silenced, its replicas seized. The Antikythera's survival could be pure accident, a fluke of shipwrecks and sediment preserving what conquerors sought to obliterate. Or perhaps we've been looking in the wrong places. The Mediterranean isn't the only cradle of ancient technology. A handful of geared devices from the Islamic Golden Age, like the 9th century Baghdad battery or Al-Jazari's elaborate clocks, hint at parallel traditions. Could the Antikythera's kin lie undiscovered in Middle Eastern vaults or Indian observatories, their connections to Greek science yet to be uncovered? The lack of replicas isn't just an archaeological puzzle, it's a warning. The Antikythera Mechanism forces us to reckon with how much knowledge has been lost to war, neglect, and deliberate erasure. Every gear in this device is a testament not just to ancient genius, but to the fragility of progress itself, how easily brilliance can be scattered to the winds, leaving behind only a single corroded clue. The Antikythera Mechanism didn't emerge from a vacuum. It was born from a web of bustling trade routes that knitted the ancient Mediterranean together. Picture this: copper mined in Cyprus, tin hauled from Cornwall, bronze forged in Corinth, all funneled through ports like Rhodes or Alexandria, where artisans and astronomers exchanged materials and ideas as casually as merchants haggled over spices. The device's very existence hinges on these networks, not just for its physical components, but for the knowledge encoded in its gears. Corinthian bronze, famed for its durability, might have traveled aboard Phoenician ships, those ancient powerhouses of commerce whose routes stretched from Tyre to Tartessos. These seafarers didn't just transport goods, they ferried techniques, whispering metallurgical secrets between ports like a game of cosmic telephone. But metals alone didn't build the mechanism. It required sophisticated astronomy, and here Alexandria's shadow looms large. The city's legendary library wasn't just a repository of scrolls, it was a melting pot where Babylonian eclipse records met Greek geometry, where Egyptian priests swapped star charts with scholars from Syracuse. Hipparchus, the astronomer whose theories may underpin the device's calculations, studied inroads but almost certainly accessed data from Alexandria's archives. The mechanism's eclipse predictions, precise to within hours, suggest access to centuries of observations records that could only have been centralized in a hub like Alexandria, then dispersed along trade routes to workshops in Rhodes or Pergamon. Yet the Phoenicians might hold the missing link. Masters of both commerce and celestial navigation, they left few written records but scattered clues in artifacts, star-shaped amulets, navigational instruments, even cargo manifests listing astronomical devices alongside ivory and dyes. Could a Phoenician trader have transported an early prototype from Egypt to Greece? Or perhaps their craftsmen, skilled in miniature metalwork, contributed to the gear-cutting techniques that made the mechanism possible? The shipwreck itself offers eerie evidence. The vessel carried glassware from Alexandria and statues from Pergamon, a snapshot of Mediterranean interconnectedness. The mechanism's genius, then, might lie not just in its gears but in its very essence as a crossroads artifact. Its bronze whispers of Cypriot mines, its calculations echo Babylonian clay tablets, its craftsmanship shouts Rhodian ingenuity. In a world where knowledge moved as fluidly as olive oil or silk, the Antikythera Mechanism stands as testament to an ancient truth: innovation thrives where cultures collide. And that raises a haunting question: if this one device survived, how many others were lost to the same tides that once connected its creators? Even the most precise gears of the Antikythera Mechanism aren't flawless. Microscopic mismatches in tooth spacing and slight deviations in alignment reveal tiny errors that accumulate over rotations. These imperfections are subtle, often less than a millimeter off, but for a device tracking celestial movements down to the hour, they raise a provocative question: were these mistakes or something more intentional? One of the most debated discrepancies lies in the lunar anomaly system. The mechanism accounts for the moon's irregular speed using a pin and slot gear, but modern reconstructions show its motion isn't perfectly smooth. Some teeth engage slightly earlier or later than they should, creating a barely perceptible stutter in the displayed lunar phase. Was this sloppy craftsmanship? Unlikely. The gear teeth are cut with such precision that even a single misaligned groove would stand out. A more compelling theory suggests these errors were deliberate simplifications. Ancient astronomers knew planetary motions weren't perfectly uniform, but replicating every minute variation in bronze might have demanded an impractical number of gears. Instead, the makers may have opted for good enough ratios that captured the essence of celestial patterns without overcomplicating the mechanism. Think of it like rounding numbers in a modern calculator, close enough for practical use even if it sacrifices pinpoint accuracy. Then there's the possibility of wear and tear. The mechanism was already centuries old when it sank, and its gears could have been jostled, repaired, or even recalibrated over time. X-rays reveal faint tool marks near some teeth, hinting at adjustments made long after its creation. Perhaps a later owner, noticing slight inaccuracies during eclipse predictions, tried to tweak the gears, only to introduce new inconsistencies. But the most tantalizing explanation lies in the limitations of ancient observational data. The Greeks inherited Babylonian eclipse records, but those weren't infallible. A single misrecorded event centuries earlier could throw off gear ratios subtly. The mechanism's creators might have baked these inherited inaccuracies into the design without realizing it, their masterpiece echoing the silent errors of long-dead astronomers. What's remarkable isn't that the mechanism has flaws, it's how few there are. Even its mistakes reflect a pragmatic understanding of engineering trade-offs. These tiny deviations don't undermine its genius, they humanize it. Behind every gear, there's a hand that weighed perfection against practicality, a mind that knew when close enough was revolutionary. In those barely perceptible hiccups, we glimpse not failure, but the fingerprints of real people grappling with the limits of their tools, their materials, and their cosmos. Beneath the known gears and dials of the Antikythera Mechanism, whispers persist of secrets still locked within its corroded frame, hidden compartments, lost dials, or even entire subsystems waiting to be rediscovered. Modern X-ray scans have already peeled back layers of the device's anatomy, but what if the most astonishing features remain buried, obscured by time, salt, or the mechanism's own intricate design? One persistent theory suggests a concealed inner dial, possibly tracking longer astronomical cycles like the 76-year Cryptic period or the elusive Metonic cycle used in Babylonian lunar calendars. The device's back plate with its labyrinth of inscriptions might not just be a user manual but a map to features we've yet to uncover. Consider the gaps in the surviving fragments. Roughly 2/3 of the mechanism is missing, and some gears don't connect to any visible function. Could these orphaned components hint at a secondary mechanism tucked behind the main assembly? In 2012, advanced imaging revealed a previously unnoticed spiral structure beneath the calendar ring, a feature with no obvious purpose. Some researchers speculated could have controlled a rotating display, perhaps a model of the 5 known planets moving through the zodiac. Others argue it might have been part of a fail-safe system, a way to reset the mechanism if its gears jammed during transit. Then there's the tantalizing possibility of a hidden compartment. The device's front and back plates fit together with a precision that leaves minimal empty space, but tiny cavities could still lurk between the layers. Ancient Greek and Roman craftsmen were known to build concealed chambers into precious objects, from jewelry with secret poison reservoirs to scroll cases with false bottoms. If the mechanism held such a space, what might it contain? A small parchment with calibration notes, a set of spare gears, or something more enigmatic, a maker's signature, a celestial map, or even a philosophical treatise etched onto a thin sheet of metal. The most provocative theory involves the device's eclipse predictor. Current reconstructions assume it used a simple turn handle system, but what if it had an additional detachable component, a sort of key that unlocked advanced functions? Imagine a removable arm or gear train that, when inserted, allowed the mechanism to calculate not just eclipses but planetary alignments or comet cycles. This wouldn't be without precedent. Medieval astrolabes often had interchangeable plates for different latitudes. The Antikythera's creators, with their flair for modular design, might have taken this idea even further. Of course, proving any of this requires more than speculation. Future scans using neutron tomography or particle accelerators could peer deeper into the corrosion, mapping hidden structures without damaging the fragile bronze. But until then, the mechanism's silence is its own kind of answer. Every unanswered question, every unexplained gear, is a reminder that this device, already the most sophisticated of its kind, might still be holding back its greatest revelations. The real wonder isn't just what we've learned from the Antikythera Mechanism, but how much of its story remains written in metal we can't yet read. To understand the Antikythera Mechanism's brilliance, we have to step into the minds of the ancient Greeks, who saw the cosmos not as a void sprinkled with stars, but as a meticulously ordered machine. The device's gears don't just calculate, they physically embody the geocentric worldview that dominated Greek astronomy. Picture Earth fixed at the center, encircled by the moon, sun, and planets, all moving in perfect nested spheres. This wasn't just philosophy, it was a mechanical reality to the Greeks, and the Antikythera Mechanism made it tangible. Every rotation of its gears mirrored their belief in a universe governed by harmony and mathematical precision. But here's where it gets fascinating. The mechanism predates Ptolemy's definitive geocentric model by over 2 centuries, and its eclipse calculations align eerily with the work of Hipparchus, the father of trigonometry. Hipparchus famously discovered the precession of the equinoxes, a slow wobble in Earth's axis that shifts the star's positions over centuries. While no direct evidence ties him to the device, the mechanism's eclipse predictions use the same 19-year metonic cycle he championed, and its lunar motion model mirrors his theories on the moon's irregular orbit. Was this machine a physical prototype of his ideas, crafted before they were formalized in texts? Or did both Hipparchus and the mechanism's makers draw from an even older well of Babylonian and Greek hybrid knowledge? The device's planetary gears offer another clue. Greek astronomy before Ptolemy struggled to explain retrograde motion, why planets sometimes appear to loop backward in the sky. The mechanism's pin and slot system approximates these loops, suggesting its creators had grasped the concept of epicycles, small circles within orbits, long before Ptolemy enshrined them in the Almagest. This isn't just a matter of dates, it hints at a vibrant, hands-on tradition of mechanical astronomy that complemented written theories. Imagine workshops where craftsmen turned abstract geometric models into brass reality, testing ideas that wouldn't be codified for generations. Yet the mechanism also challenges some assumptions. Its zodiac dial follows the Babylonian ecliptic rather than the Greek equatorial system, and its eclipse glyphs blend Mesopotamian omens with Greek notation. This isn't a pure product of any one school, it's a hybrid, a crossroads where Babylonian data met Greek engineering. Perhaps its greatest lesson is that ancient science wasn't static. The Greeks didn't just inherit ideas, they experimented, iterated, and built. The Antikythera Mechanism isn't a slave to geocentrism. It's a dynamic expression of it, a working model of the universe as its makers dared to imagine it. The real wonder isn't just that the device matches Hipparchus or foreshadows Ptolemy. It's that it stands as a missing link between theory and practice, proving the ancients didn't just ponder the cosmos, they built it gear by gear in bronze. In those tiny, interlocking teeth, we see the birth of mechanical astronomy, a tradition that might have sparked centuries of innovation if history hadn't buried it beneath the sea. Who truly unlocked the secrets of the Antikythera Mechanism? This wasn't a gadget for casual stargazers. Its complexity suggests operators with specialized training, individuals who could decode celestial mathematics as effortlessly as we read a clock. The literacy demands alone were staggering. Users needed fluency in Greek to interpret the inscriptions alongside advanced arithmetic to adjust for discrepancies between the device's predictions and observed events. But beyond literacy, there's the question of access. In a world where knowledge was power, who held the privilege to command such a tool? Priests emerge as likely candidates. In ancient Greek and Egyptian traditions, temples doubled as astronomical observatories, with clergy tracking celestial cycles to time rituals and festivals. A device predicting eclipses down to the hour would have been indispensable. Imagine a high priest consulting the mechanism to declare the optimal moment for a harvest ceremony, or to interpret an eclipse as an omen from the gods. The mechanism's eclipse glyphs, some bearing ominous symbols, hint at this sacred function. Yet its precision also made it dangerous. If priests relied on its predictions to assert divine authority, what happened when the machine contradicted traditional celestial law? The operator might have needed not just technical skill but political savvy to navigate these tensions. Then there's the case for sailors. Rhodes, the mechanism's probable birthplace, was a maritime powerhouse, and its ship captains faced deadly stakes in navigation. While the device wasn't portable by modern standards, its eclipse and planetary data could have been transcribed onto scrolls before voyages, helping sailors calibrate their routes by the stars. The maritime theory gains traction from the wreck itself, a ship laden with treasures, possibly carrying the mechanism as a master reference for coastal navigation. But this raises a paradox. The device's fragility and value would have made it impractical for daily use at sea. Perhaps it belonged to a harbor master, a shore-based expert who trained navigators in celestial patterns before they set sail. Scholars, however, might be the most compelling operators. The mechanism's dual calendars, Greek and Egyptian, suggest a user fluent in cross-cultural astronomy, someone like Hipparchus or his students, who blended Babylonian data with Greek geometry. Its differential gear, modeling the moon's irregular orbit, implies an audience capable of grasping abstract celestial mechanics. Could it have been a teaching tool in a philosopher's academy, where students cranked the handle to watch planetary theories play out in bronze? The backplate's hasty engravings lend credence to this note scribbled by a scholar mid-lecture, perhaps, or a student's attempt to document its functions before an impending journey. Yet the most intriguing possibility is that no single group monopolized the mechanism. Like modern computers, its utility spanned domains. A priest might use it for ritual timing by morning, a merchant for voyage planning by afternoon, and a philosopher to demonstrate cosmic harmony by evening. This versatility hints at a society more interconnected than we often assume, where celestial knowledge flowed between temples, docks, and schools, and where a single device could serve as almanac, navigational aid, and philosophical testament. The real marvel isn't just that the ancients built such a machine, but that they might have shared it across the boundaries that later eras would rigidly enforce. In its gears, we glimpse a lost world where science, faith, and practicality weren't yet strangers. If the Antikythera Mechanism represents the dazzling peak of ancient Greek ingenuity, the medieval astrolabe is its quieter, more practical descendant, a tool that, while impressive, couldn't match the sheer mechanical genius of its predecessor. Picture this: by the 9th century, Islamic scholars had perfected the astrolabe, a handheld brass disc engraved with star maps and rotating dials. Beautiful. Absolutely, precise, certainly, but compared to the Antikythera's labyrinth of interlocking gears, the astrolabe was simplicity itself. A flat, two-dimensional cousin to a device that had once modeled the cosmos in 3 dimensions with moving planets and eclipse predictions. The astrolabe could tell time, chart stars, even calculate prayer times, but it couldn't replicate the Antikythera's dynamic, gear-driven ballet of celestial motion. This gap raises a haunting question: how did technology seemingly slide backward for over 1,000 years? The astrolabe's elegance masks a stark truth: it lacked the Antikythera's computational complexity. Where the Greek device used differential gears to account for the moon's irregular orbit, the astrolabe relied on manual adjustments and interchangeable plates. The difference is like comparing a mechanical watch to a sundial. Both tell time, but one is a marvel of engineering, the other a clever workaround. Some argue this wasn't regression so much as adaptation. The astrolabe was portable, affordable, and easier to mass-produce, making it the everyday computer of its age. But that practicality came at a cost: the loss of mechanical sophistication that had once been within reach. The deeper mystery lies in why that knowledge vanished. The astrolabe thrived in an era when the Antikythera Mechanism's secrets had already been forgotten. Part of the answer lies in the collapse of the ancient Mediterranean world. Rome's fall shattered trade networks that once transported both goods and ideas. Workshops capable of crafting precision bronze gears likely disbanded as wars and economic crises made such specialized labor untenable. Meanwhile, texts describing complex mechanics written on fragile papyrus or parchment rotted in damp cellars or burned in sieges. The Library of Alexandria's destruction alone may have erased entire schools of thought. Yet the astrolabe's rise also reflects a cultural shift. Medieval scholars prioritized utility over spectacle. A device that helped farmers plant crops or sailors navigate was more valued than one predicting eclipses for priestly elites. The Antikythera Mechanism, for all its brilliance, might have been a dead end, a masterpiece too intricate, too expensive, too tied to a dying Hellenistic world to survive its collapse. Meanwhile, the astrolabe spread from Baghdad to Cordoba, evolving with each civilization that adopted it. Its simplicity became its strength, ensuring its survival where the Antikythera's complexity guaranteed its obscurity. But here's the twist: the astrolabe's dominance might have actively suppressed the revival of more advanced devices. With a reliable tool at hand, medieval scholars had little incentive to reinvent the Antikythera's wheels, literally. Why labor over intricate gear trains when a rotating disc could suffice? This complacency, born of practicality, may have delayed the return of complex mechanics until the Renaissance, when clockmakers like Giovanni da Dondi rebuilt gear-driven planetariums inspired by rediscovered Greek texts. The astrolabe didn't just fill the gap left by the Antikythera, it helped bury its memory, leaving later generations to believe such sophistication was beyond their ancestors. Yet fragments of the old knowledge lingered. Some medieval Islamic astronomers, like al-Biruni, described geared devices for calculating planetary motions, proof that the Antikythera's legacy wasn't entirely extinguished. And when European monks began crafting mechanical clocks in the 13th century, they unknowingly echoed the Greeks, using gears to model the heavens once more. The path from Antikythera to the astrolabe and beyond isn't just a story of loss, it's a reminder that progress isn't linear. Sometimes the brightest sparks of genius flicker out, only to be rekindled centuries later by hands that never knew they were following in ancient footsteps. Modern reconstructions of the Antikythera mechanism have become a bridge between ancient genius and contemporary technology, revealing just how close and how far we are from truly unlocking its secrets. When historian Derek de Solla Price first published his groundbreaking study in 1959, he relied on painstaking manual examinations and rudimentary X-rays, piecing together the device's functions like a detective solving a 2,000-year-old crime. His work revealed the mechanism as the world's first known analog computer, but even Price admitted his reconstruction was incomplete. Gaps in the fragments left entire gear systems to speculation, and some of his proposed mechanisms, like the planetary displays, were later proven inaccurate. Yet his legacy is undeniable. He transformed the Antikythera from a curiosity into a historical watershed. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the tools available to researchers have leaped into the realm of science fiction. High-resolution CT scanners and 3D modeling software now peer inside the mechanism's corroded layers with surgical precision, uncovering inscriptions and gear teeth invisible to Price's generation. In 2005, a team led by Mike Edmonds and Tony Freeth used these techniques to reveal previously hidden text, including a manual of sorts etched into the device's inner surfaces. These scans didn't just confirm the mechanism's astronomical purpose, they exposed its true sophistication. The CT images showed gears with teeth cut at precise angles to minimize friction, a level of engineering finesse that rivals modern watchmaking. But the most dramatic breakthroughs have come from physical reconstructions. Teams like the Antikythera Mechanism Research Project have built working replicas, testing theories about how the original might have operated. One such model, crafted by machinist Michael Wright, incorporated all known gears and introduced a radical idea. The mechanism didn't just track celestial bodies, it displayed them in motion, with tiny orbs representing planets gliding along rotating arms. Wright's reconstruction suggested the device was as much a teaching tool as a calculator, a mechanical planetarium that brought the cosmos to life. Yet for every puzzle solved, new mysteries emerged. The most accurate modern replicas still can't account for all the original's functions. Some gear ratios remain ambiguous, and inscriptions hint at lost features, like a possible dial for predicting solar flares or comet appearances. Even the device's exact operation is debated. Did users turn a handle to advance the display day by day, or was it set to a specific date like an ancient celestial alarm clock? The most recent reconstructions, blending 3D printing with traditional craftsmanship, edge closer to answers but still rely on educated guesses for missing components. Perhaps the most humbling realization is that we may never fully replicate the mechanism's original form. Without the lost two-thirds of the device, critical gears, like those modeling Mercury's erratic orbit, exist only in theory. And even if every fragment were recovered, the cultural context is irreplaceable. Modern reconstructions are built by engineers, but the original sprang from a worldview where astronomy, mythology, and mechanics intertwined seamlessly. We can admire the gears, but the minds that conceived them remain just out of reach. What these reconstructions prove, though, is more profound than any single solution. They reveal a lineage of curiosity stretching from ancient Greece to today's labs, a shared determination to understand this artifact not as a relic but as a challenge. Every new model, whether crafted from bronze or pixels, is a tribute to the unknown makers who, 2 millennia ago, dared to build a universe inside a box. And with each turn of a reconstructed gear, we come closer to hearing their silent, ticking message that the past holds wonders we're only beginning to measure. Digital replicas of the Antikythera Mechanism aren't just virtual curiosities. They're time machines, peeling back layers of corrosion to reveal truths even the original makers might have forgotten. Take the University College London's groundbreaking 3D model, which painstakingly recreated every known gear and inscription, then simulated centuries of motion in seconds. This digital twin exposed a subtle error in earlier reconstructions: the placement of the lunar anomaly gear. For decades, researchers assumed it meshed directly with the main drive, but the simulation revealed that slight misalignment caused unbearable friction over time. The digital model suggested a hidden intermediary gear, a tiny, lost component that would have smoothed the mechanism's operation. Suddenly, a device we thought we understood became newly mysterious, its original design more elegant than anyone had imagined. Then there's the work of the Antikythera Mechanism Research Project, whose 3D animations uncovered something startling about the eclipse prediction dial. Traditional reconstructions showed it as a static display, but their digital model proved it could dynamically adjust for geographical latitude, a feature no one suspected. By tweaking a secondary dial, users might have customized predictions for different Greek cities, accounting for slight variations in eclipse visibility. This wasn't just a calculator, it was an ancient globe-spanning tool, its sophistication stretching far beyond the Mediterranean. But digital tools do more than correct past mistakes. They let us experiment with the impossible. One team at Aristotle University in Thessaloniki used their model to test a wild theory. Could the mechanism's missing fragments have included a planetary display for all 5 known worlds? Their simulation added hypothetical gears for Mars and Venus, threading them through the existing framework. The result, a breathtaking celestial ballet, with planets gliding in retrograde loops just as the Greeks observed. While no physical evidence confirms this feature, the digital reconstruction proves it was mechanically feasible, hinting that the original might have been even grander than the fragments suggest. Yet these virtual explorations also reveal the limits of our knowledge. Some digital models, when run backward to match ancient eclipse records, expose tiny discrepancies, gaps the Greeks somehow accounted for but we can't yet replicate. It's as if the mechanism contains layers of embedded wisdom, shortcuts or corrections based on observations we've long since lost. Every pixel-perfect simulation brings us closer to the Antikythera's secrets, but also whispers how much we still don't and may never know. The real power of these digital replicas isn't just in solving puzzles, it's in keeping the conversation with the past alive. Each click of a virtual gear, each tweak of a simulated dial is a dialogue across millennia, a chance to ask the ancients, did we get it right? And sometimes, if you listen closely to the silence between the ones and zeros, the answer is a humbling, exhilarating maybe. The Antikythera Mechanism's sheer sophistication has inevitably spawned wild theories. Could this device, so far ahead of its time, actually be proof of extraterrestrial intervention? It's a seductive idea, especially when you consider how its precision seems to defy everything we know about ancient technology. Proponents of the alien hypothesis point to the device's differential gear, a component so advanced that nothing comparable appears in the historical record for another 1,500 years. How, they ask, could a civilization without telescopes or modern mathematics create something that models the cosmos with Swiss watch accuracy? The gaps in our knowledge make it easy to imagine outsiders handing advanced blueprints to mystified Greeks. But let's ground this in reality. Every gear, every inscription in the Antikythera Mechanism bears the unmistakable fingerprints of human ingenuity rooted in its era. The materials, common Mediterranean bronze with traces of lead, match other artifacts from Hellenistic workshops. The astronomical calculations align with known Babylonian records that Greek scholars like Hipparchus studied and refined. Even the so-called out-of-place differential gear fits within the broader context of ancient innovation. Heron of Alexandria's 1st century automata, for example, used similarly complex gear trains for theatrical effects. The mechanism wasn't an inexplicable anomaly. It was the pinnacle of a tradition we're only beginning to reconstruct. What fuels these alien theories isn't just the device's complexity, but the haunting gaps in our historical record. The burning of the Library of Alexandria erased countless texts, and the plundering of Rhodes scattered its artisans. When knowledge disappears so thoroughly, it's tempting to replace lost human achievement with something more sensational. Yet the very existence of the Antikythera Mechanism argues against extraterrestrial intervention. If aliens gifted such technology, why didn't it spark an industrial revolution? Why no mentions of otherworldly visitors in Greek texts or similar devices elsewhere? The truth is far more compelling. The ancient Greeks and their Babylonian and Egyptian predecessors were far more capable than we've often given them credit for. The alien myth persists because the mechanism challenges our biases about the past. We're comfortable with the idea of Greeks philosophizing about the cosmos, but less so with them engineering it in bronze. Yet every new discovery, from Mesopotamian star catalogues to Roman surgical tools, reveals a world where science and craftsmanship intertwined in ways that still stagger us. The Antikythera Mechanism doesn't need aliens to be miraculous. Its real magic lies in proving how much human curiosity, when given the right tools and time, can achieve without intervention from the stars. The device's greatest lesson isn't about extraterrestrials, it's about underestimating our ancestors, and that's a mystery far more worth solving. The Antikythera Mechanism's mysteries are far from solved. If anything, the next decade of research promises breakthroughs that could rewrite history. Teams armed with cutting-edge AI are now training algorithms to decipher the device's faintest inscriptions, some so eroded they resemble shadows more than text. These programs don't just scan, they cross-reference thousands of ancient Greek astronomical manuscripts in milliseconds, hunting for patterns humans might miss. Early tests have teased out partial words near the eclipse-style phrases that might reveal whether the mechanism predicted planetary alignments or even comet appearances. One tantalizing lead, a cluster of symbols near the Saros cycle that could correspond to Babylonian records of Halley's comet, suggesting the Greeks may have tracked celestial visitors long before medieval astronomers. Meanwhile, marine archaeologists are preparing a daring return to the Antikythera shipwreck, equipped with robotic submersibles capable of sifting through layers of sediment without disturbing delicate artifacts. Recent sonar scans revealed anomalies near the original discovery site, metallic shapes too angular to be natural rock formations. Could these be missing gear fragments or even parts of a second device? The wreck's deepest sections remain unexplored, and some theorists speculate the ship's cargo hold might conceal tools or blueprints that could finally identify the mechanism's workshop. But the most revolutionary work might be happening in laboratories. neutron imaging, a technique that peers deeper into metal than conventional X-rays, is set to reveal hidden internal structures without damaging the fragile bronze. Researchers suspect the mechanism's backplate could conceal undiscovered gears or calibration marks, features invisible to previous scans. Even the device's corrosion holds clues. Chemists are analyzing trace elements in the patina to pinpoint where its bronze was mined, potentially tracing it to a specific Mediterranean port. The biggest question isn't just what we'll find, but how these discoveries will reshape our understanding of ancient science. If AI translates a manual hidden in the inscriptions, we might finally learn who operated the device and how. New dives could uncover tools showing the precision of Hellenistic workshops, or worse, confirm the mechanism was a lonely outlier. Every gear, every glyph has the potential to tilt the scales between two visions of antiquity, one where such technology was rare and another where it was merely the tip of a forgotten iceberg. What's certain is that the Antikythera mechanism isn't done speaking. As technology peels back its layers with tools the Greeks could never have imagined, we're not just studying an artifact, we're stepping into a conversation across millennia. And the next chapter might be the most astonishing yet. We've journeyed through the Antikythera mechanism's most tantalizing enigmas, from the eerie precision of its eclipse predictions to the haunting gaps in its fragmented frame. Each mystery peels back another layer of our assumptions about ancient ingenuity. Who are the brilliant minds behind this celestial calculator, and why does their work stand alone in the archaeological record? How did they encode planetary motions into bronze gears with such accuracy, centuries before the scientific revolution? And perhaps most perplexing of all, what else might they have built that we've yet to discover? This corroded relic from the seabed doesn't just challenge our timeline of technological progress, it shatters it. For decades, historians believed complex geared devices emerged in medieval Europe, yet here's proof that ancient Greeks crafted machinery rivaling 18th century clockwork. The implications ripple outward. If they achieved this, what other marvels slipped through history's cracks? The mechanism whispers of lost libraries, suppressed knowledge, and entire schools of engineering erased by war or time. It forces us to confront an unsettling truth. We've underestimated the past's capacity for innovation. But the greatest wonder isn't just what we don't know, it's how much remains to uncover. With every advance in imaging technology, every dive back to the shipwreck, we edge closer to answers. Perhaps the next breakthrough lies in an overlooked inscription, a hidden gear yet to be scanned, or a shard still buried under Mediterranean sands. That's the thrill of this puzzle. It's alive, evolving with each new discovery. So where do your theories take you? Could the mechanism's missing pieces lie in an unexcavated Roman villa or a forgotten monastic archive? Might its creators have left clues in texts we've misread for centuries? The conversation doesn't end here. Share your thoughts below, because history's greatest enigmas are best unraveled together. The Antikythera mechanism isn't just a relic, it's an invitation. An invitation to question, to reimagine, and to stay endlessly curious about the silent genius of those who came before us. After all, some secrets aren't meant to stay buried, they're meant to ignite our wonder.